down and dirty.
Very fast and cheap.
We were giving the audience what they wanted to see.
Nobody was really trying to make them good.
As the years go on, you really start to get beyond any concept of taste whatsoever.
There was no need for taste.
But then, as it goes on, you kind of start realizing, no, this is genuinely funny.
It's just so different from the Entertainment Weekly world or the Academy Award world. These pictures, they just go someplace else, and there's an incredible number of people that want to see a picture just like this.
The way Disney movies, bring out the child in all of us, so can exploitation.
As soon as the movie camera was invented, exploitation started like 5 seconds later.
This is Howard Scott on the scene for TV12. We're at the Bijou Theater, where it's been reported that a man has gone berserk while watching a double-feature horror program.
Your most fearful nightmares, the most cruel sights you have ever seen, cannot match the shock of this motion picture experience.
You'll see things you never thought you'd ever see on a motion picture screen.
Scenes of such brutal honesty will be shown on this screen that we strongly recommend that impressionable young people, or those people of any age, now close their eyes for the remainder of this coming attraction, and further recommend these people do not attend any showing of this film.
Hey, Bertha, that looks like a pretty good movie.
Why, Elmer, I wouldn't be caught dead watching a movie like that.
This is the story of dirty and cheap movies, which speculated on the topics of sex, drugs, violence, and dozens of similarly dark themes.
So it's just that simple, isn't it?
Why they called it exploitation was because there were films that basically didn't have big stars or big production values. But they had elements in there that you could exploit, either sex, violence, action.
The success of these pictures directly correlated to the scandalous ideas, which were not always incorporated into the plot, but were advertised by the title, poster, or trailer.
If you are shocked or embarrassed by total nudity and sexual activity, you're urged not to attend.
To gain an understanding of these films, we'll return to the roots of the genre and follow its development through history. We'll examine its birth, rise to popularity, and impact on contemporary culture.
The time has come for you to play your part in this momentous occasion. Science must surmount all obstacles, and this requires certain sacrifices.
At the dawn of the 20th century, the art of cinema expanded thanks to sensational content. Watching a train approach became bland, but watching a woman undress on screen, a fight, or even a murder consistently caused excitement among the first fans of cinema. In those days, Thomas Edison's studio was considered the pinnacle of vulgarity. These shorts paved the way for the first full-length exploitation film. In the 1913 criminal thriller, Traffic in Souls, Universal Studios explored the subject of white slavery. This phrase, coined by the Yellow Press, wasn't based on any real evidence, and yet it deeply disturbed the residents of New York. The budget was $5,000, and it made $500,000. Thanks to this success, the studio became a leader in the film industry. Producers had figured out what the audience wanted. The next 20 years of American cinema exploited every aspect of sex and violence possible. And yes, the movies which made it to the present day are different. That which we call the classics are but a small sample of the real repertoire of movie theaters in the 20s. Hollywood was considered a breeding ground for immorality and was shrouded in scandal. By the 1930s, Christian organizations and advocates of wholesome morality took control. The studios searched for a compromise, eventually found by U.S. Postmaster General William Hayes, though he behaved more like a predecessor to the televangelist.
Service is the supreme commitment of life.
William Hayes presented a list of rules to the American Film Association, made up of all the leading players of Hollywood, which was unofficially referred to as the Hayes Code. It contained 37 rules which made it impossible for mainstream studios in the western United States to film scandalous pictures. The document banned any allusion to sensual nudity, including silhouettes, sexual hygiene, or STDs. It also forbade showing mixed-race marriages, poking fun at clergymen, nationalism, or religion, except for atheists.
It would be a devastating blow to our antiquated systems.
This step helped Hollywood obtain a respectable reputation and paved the way for its golden era.
Thank you, sir. Professional compliments are always pleasing. Yes,
Independent producers, on the other hand, who were desperately trying to make easy money and didn't subscribe to such high morals, knew exactly what they had to do.
Hasn't Steffi got a beautiful dress? Isn't that pretty? When I get to Paris, I'm going to buy her a big hat with a long feather on it.
The first success of the genre was the horror film Freaks, where the freaks were played by real circus artists.
Have I not told you? God, look, after all these children.
The movie was filmed at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios in the 30s, but since it was made right as Hollywood was improving its reputation, the reel gathered dust in the archives for 10 years before its potential was discovered. The pioneering exploitation producer Dwayne Esper saw its potential and later made a name for himself making movies containing sexual themes. Sexploitation was the basis for many of the films made between the 30s and 50s, while posters outside major movie theaters advertised countless musicals and comedies. The posters of these pictures read "For adults only" and tantalized with their sensuality.
This will give them a bit of a shock. Something to write home about. Nice bedtime story for the kids, too, if they want it.
That kind of product, as it was called, was just not thought of in the same breath as the kind of things that played in normal theaters.
An underground, partly illegal group of film distributors nicknamed the 40 Thieves showed these films in ghetto or rural neighborhoods.
Look, it's a legitimate business. Almost.
The Thieves created chains of illegal movie theaters that looked like circus tents, or made deals with local movie theaters that didn't belong to any major studios. By that time, exploitation films completely pushed Hollywood out of the adult film genre. The government did not favor this form of entertainment and tried to repress it, causing producers to often advertise the films as being first and foremost educational.
Don't be afraid to fight dirty. Anything goes.
The peak of the genre's success was the movie Mom and Dad. The picture had everything from a demonstration of how to use contraceptives to complete footage of the birthing process. Crowds gathered and would wait to buy tickets for several hours, which helped make Mom and Dad the third highest grossing film of the decade. All that considering that the budget was only $65,000.
See, Mom and Dad, you'll be glad you did. Children under 16 must be in adult company.
Studios like Warner and Paramount did not like watching so much money slip through their fingers, so they mounted an offensive against the aggressive methods of the 40 Thieves in the form of film noir.
You squint!
The genre included all the exploitation themes, but the writers and directors had to get creative to thinly veil the things which contradicted the Hayes Code.
Sometimes as we watched, she'd clutch my arm or my hand, forgetting she was my employer.
Writers hungry for adult themes created dozens of masterpieces, which went down in film history. But what history in the industry doesn't want us to remember is that this happened thanks to the pioneers who made third-rate, semi-pornographic pictures.
It was perfect. Except it wasn't, because you made one mistake. Just one little mistake.
In the 50s, the American government forbade studios to own movie theaters, which led to the extinction of the Hayes Code. Then, the fight for freedom of speech emerged in the U.S., as well as the birth of television.
This emblem that you've just seen is tonight the symbol of a historic occasion. The opening of the national television set.
And the wave of European film which was way more explicit, naturalistic, than the local, ethically sound movies.
Au cinéma, c'est comme ça et pas autrement.
Ha ha.
Advocates of morality lost their foothold in the masses, and by the beginning of the 60s, the code was eliminated. It was replaced by the MPAA rating system, which we use to this day.
This seal is part of the self-regulation of the Motion Picture Association. It means that the film displaying the seal is within the creative boundaries of reason and good judgment.
This was bad news for the creators of exploitation films, because it meant that the studios could compete with them unrestrained. Movies like Anatomy of a Murder and Psycho were more conservative than their cheap competitors. But instead, they offered the public intelligent narratives, actors of the highest order, and the latest technological innovations available to the film industry. The exploitation film industry took the hit on the chin. Complete rejection of morality and common sense ensued. Crazy plots and scenes, which we can't show here, and honestly, are not always worth watching. Carnal violence was its main weapon against Hollywood. The more depraved and disgusting, the better.
Do this to me, please, doctor!
The patient screamed, disturbing me. Performed removal of vocal cords.
Rated X.
Meanwhile, the sexual revolution was brewing in America.
I blinked in 1965, and suddenly the 60s appeared. The smoking dope, the Beatles had played the Hollywood Bowl, and everything changed overnight.
And the popularity of psychotropic drugs and marijuana seemed to have exceeded even alcohol.
You won't get hooked.
Yeah, well, I know, but I mean, it leads to harder stuff.
This, of course, impacted exploitation movies. The 60s gave the world not only American classic rock, but Grindhouse as well. Grindhouse received its name from a street in New York, where for 20 years prior, cheap semi-pornographic films had edged out burlesque and strip shows. It was also the birthplace of the double feature, which then took over the rest of the United States.
How much shock can you stand? Free $2,000 cash if you should die from fright while watching Women and Bloody Terror and Night of Bloody Horror.
That much entertainment. It was like, oh, all the more movie for your money. I mean, when people went to the movies, it wasn't meant to be this like thing that was supposed to get through just so they could get to the dinner. Yeah. All right. Yeah. It was like people were there. They were there to see two movies. There would be a riot in the theater if there wasn't two movies.
Teens were looking for something sensational and yearned to be admitted to adult films. Drive-in movies, which mostly showed exploitation films, became their main hangout.
The word teenager didn't really exist until the 50s. If you look at the 40s and 30s, their idea of a teenage movie was Andy Hardy.
Hiya, cupcake.
What did you say?
I said, hiya, cupcake.
That's what I thought you said.
The major studios didn't really understand. The audience was looking for a different type of film. If we were going to make pictures about young people,
you make it as disreputable as possible so that the parents don't want them to see it, and that they feel that when they go there, they're doing something transgressive. And you've got an audience. You're making outlaw movies, basically.
A story of pent-up, twisted kids whose violence screams at you from the headlines every day. Their blazing destruction rains viciousness upon the land.
The new audience demanded fresh plots, and thanks to their yearning for depravity, sparked a wave of movies about young rebellion, especially starring bikers, which literally turned cinema upside down.
The goal was, where I said, every motorcycle that runs, have it smash into something. And then when it stops running, blow it up.
The genre first emerged in 1953. The Wild One, starring Marlon Brando, became an icon for producers.
Nobody tells me what to do.
In the 60s, similar plots enchanted the American youth in films like Motorcycle, Hell's Angels on Wheels, The Miniskirt Mob.
And they ride hard, no matter what they're mounted on. The Miniskirt Mob.
Satan's Sadist, Naked Angels, and of course, Easy Rider.
Easy Rider is a picture that exists because of exploitation pictures. I don't think in itself it is, because I think it's a message movie. It doesn't have a clear Western-like plot. I mean, it's basically an odyssey.
The movie opened the eyes of the world to the talents of Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda, and Jack Nicholson.
Oh, Oh, I've got a helmet. I got a beauty.
The picture was also a breaking point for Hollywood, proving that cheap movies with no-name actors could be just as effective as high-budget projects.
And I must say that although I was in some of the most dreadful pictures of all time, that I was, and so were all the people I was working with, trying to do their best.
A film which had passed for your average exploitation film had gotten 2 Oscar nominations and made over $60 million while having a budget of only $360,000.
When I went to Cannes with Easy Rider, my character came on the screen and the movie exploded in that audience. It just went wow, like it does in rock and roll. I'm the only person who ever in real life felt, holy shit, I'm a movie star.
Must have had a hell of a good time.
Easy Rider opened the door for a young generation of directors and changed Hollywood forever. But that's a story for another time. For now, exploitation satiated every desire the public could imagine. Nihilism began to gain traction because of the war in Vietnam. The philosophy of rejecting universally accepted values led to a series of gore films. Stories including Maniacs and Psychos were the predecessors of today's slashers.
What kind of motion picture might there be that the major film companies either will not make or cannot make, but a theater will play and somebody might plop down in a chair to look at?
If a guy's shot in the stomach and he's bleeding like a stuck pig, I want to see him bleeding like a stuck pig.
And that gave us the idea for that marvelous 4-letter word, G-O-R-E.
And whether you think that his movies are exciting or not exciting, they're incredibly fucking important because nobody had ever thought to do that.
Brace yourselves for a journey to the outer limits of nightmare.
Instantly, it was a gigantic smash.
A taste of blood.
With ghastly scenes that will make even the boldest viewer cringe in horror.
At the time, the Black Rights movement was gaining momentum and was also reflected in cinema.
I mean, to see the black audience seeing their superheroes on screen, it was just amazing. It was just a great time for the black audience because we weren't used to seeing that.
Blaxploitation was a fairly popular variation on the genre. Yes, Black Panther counts as Blaxploitation on every count. It may be the biggest modern-day example of an exploitation movie.
We all know the truth.
But back in the 70s, films like Shaft continued to show in movie theaters in the ghetto.
You ain't so black. And you ain't so white, baby.
And I loved it. And I went to see all of them every single solitary week. And
the image of a strong, witty, and brutal main character may have had just as much of an impact on racial segregation as Dr. King.
He's black. He's brutal. He's boss. Fred Williamson is boss.
Well, okay, maybe not just as much. Still, it's no coincidence that Shaft sequels continue to be made to this very day. Black Caesar is another shining example of the genre, and it jump-started Fred Williamson's career. Who went on to star in dozens of important blaxploitation films and became famous even beyond the USA.
He was right. I don't do no singing, I don't do no dancing, and you ain't killing me, and I'm winning my fights, I'm gonna get the girl. That's it, bottom line.
But the main star of blaxploitation was Pam Grier. The actress stood out because of her unusual dramatic talent, and Coffee and Foxy Brown were instant classics.
Yeah, just about.
People criticized Coffee and Foxy Brown for being almost racist from the black point of view, you know? My feeling was, well, why not? You know, we've been watching racist movies all our lives. Why not see what it looks like from the other side and enjoy it?
Death is too easy for you, bitch. I want you to suffer.
Later, a faithful fan of the genre, Quentin Tarantino would tap into her potential and make all of Hollywood applaud her acting.
That's why you came here to kill me.
I ain't come over here
Oh,
to
no,
kill
it's
you.
okay. It's okay. Now, I forgive you.
It was the dawn of movies using the black stereotype, and Dolomite is my name.
I want you to take these cheap motherfuckers and wipe your ass with them.
Oh no, Dolomite. We'll keep them here. You'll be back.
And Hell Up in Harlem are all considered to be our inheritance from 1970s cinema. However, even the greatest era of exploitation had its examples of complete absurdity.
His name is Samson. He's big with his cat, with mama, and with his stick.
Where's the rest of you?
We are joined together temporarily.
Incredible two-headed transplant was really a send-up of Frankenstein. At least that's what I thought when I was writing it.
Okay. We'll just have to figure out a way to do it right then.
It was just meant to be a light little horror movie, yet everyone seems to think, oh, it's just terrible.
I know you don't like to answer a lot of questions, but how did that happen?
Oh, I'll tell you about that later.
The Thing with Two Heads and Blackula were two critical points which were met with complete bafflement among viewers, but with time became classics among fans of total trash. Speaking of trash, we couldn't leave out the phenomena of Nazi exploitation, the artistic value of which is doubted even by the most loyal exploitation fans.
As the years go on and the pictures get more and more graphic, you really start to get beyond any concept of taste whatsoever. And the Nazis simply exist as an excuse for images of horror and degradation and sex and murder.
Give me the honor of sleeping with a German woman, an officer of the SS.
Nonetheless, beginning in the 40s, these movies were made with envied regularity. And in the 70s, directors breathed new life into them by adding aspects of BDSM and nymphomania to them.
It's the worst piece of shit I have ever read in my, I'm going through, I don't know if I could do this. Nobody's ever done a film like this. I've never seen one.
We shall see.
And I'm looking at this fucking money, man. And this guy is dealing cash. And then the total whore in me comes out. And I signed up.
No man could have withstood such pain.
The public liked this type of perversion too, and these films continue to be made. During that period, exploitation reached the climax of its madness.
It's as if these films would be made on your street corner in a way, but they weren't encumbered by having to deal with art, and with a capital A-R-T, and they just weren't, they're art in another way.
The pictures looked like jokes. They didn't look like they were real movies. They looked like the movies in the front of Tropic Thunder. They just didn't look real. But the audience has never minded.
Kill everyone now. Condone first-degree murder. Advocate cannibalism. Eat shit.
You also mentioned that to you, if you can make somebody throw up, that's like a standing ovation.
Well, my early films, yeah. Because I've had theaters where they actually put sawdust down in the lobby because of that problem.
Filth are my politics. Filth is my life. Take whatever you like.
There were studios where the production process looked something like this. First, the marketing department would come up with a shocking title. Then the art department would draft a scandalous poster. And only then the producers would look for screenwriters to write the actual story based on the demand. No one cared about the quality of the end product, since the goal to sell a ticket had nothing to do with someone watching even one scene.
A lot of moviegoers, adults and teenagers, both go to see these R-rated films and they assume, well, they're just going to see a bunch of routine, scary pictures. But oftentimes, they're really shocked how awful these films are.
Day of the Woman is a perfect example of how important a title can be.
I don't like women giving me orders.
The movie was released under that same title, was a complete flop, and totally forgotten. 3 years later, returned to movie theaters having stolen the name of a famous European drama.
I Spit on Your Grave.
That's how I Spit on Your Grave became a hit. Brought the distributors a tidy sum, and even led to a remake in 2010.
It's date night.
The gazillion, or should I say Godzillion films about monsters are also worth our attention.
Invaders from beyond the stars. What green slime.
Although, to be honest, they're not.
The deadly spawn.
But even 1,000 beasts don't compare to the latest villains of the movie industry. Those that ride on the curtails of blockbusters.
Now, enter an underwater world of terror and suspense as you face the jaws of death.
Mockbusters are basically an attempt to film Star Wars for $50,000. Yes, Star Crash does actually exist. And it made quite a bit of money. This market would later be taken over by the Asylum Independent Film Company, which, by the way, has never lost money on a project. But let's return to the events which impacted cinema as a whole. The 70s were marked as an era when the power in Hollywood shifted. Representatives of the golden era were aging and reluctantly retiring. The gaps were being filled by young and ambitious revolutionaries who had grown up on Grindhouse. This new blood desired naturalism and frankness, no less than the exploitation supporters.
All the animals come out at night. Whores, skunk pussies, buggers, queens, fairies, dopers, junkies.
The wall dividing filmmakers into two camps, big studios and independent risk takers, was crumbling. The carsploitation genre yielded hits which are being remade to this day, from Vanishing Point to Gone in 60 Seconds.
Should I be gone? 60 seconds.
To Mad Max.
Max is a main force officer trying to protect his family and stay alive.
Nobody shoots a car the way Aussies do. They manage to shoot cars with this fetishistic lens that just makes you want to jerk off.
I remember there was a review out of India which said the people who made this film should be dragged into the street and hung.
Emma! To keep your sweet mouth shut.
I actually went and saw it after reading this horrible review. All right, I'm like, this movie fucking rocks.
On the other hand, George Romero's success was developing exploitation film in the classical sense.
And I thought I was creating a completely new monster. You know, the neighbors suddenly turned into flesh eaters, ghouls, and that's what I called them, ghouls in the film. It's all about, the stories are all about the humans, the mistakes that they make. The zombies are just sort of, they're like the mosquito that won't go away.
Dawn of the Dead was one of the first films to begin its journey in the Grindhouse double features, but in a few weeks made it to the best theaters in the country. This phenomenon laid the foundation for another subgenre, zombie movies, which are still in high demand. When talking about exploitation in the wider sense, it's easy to include any film which takes advantage of any popular theme in society.
Dragon whips his tail.
Bruce Lee introduced the exploitation of Oriental martial arts, which eventually flooded Hollywood.
Otherwise known as the Black Dragon.
Then there were the previously mentioned gore movies and their offspring, the slashers. In 1978, the movie Halloween ensured that the film industry would be haunted by mass killers for at least 40 more years.
And all of these films are thrillers featuring extreme violence directed at young women.
Many movies that followed used the same plot lines but simply changed the mask and location.
I don't
don't like that story.
If we examine our recent history, the first person that comes to mind would be none other than Quentin Tarantino, whose artistic path is intertwined with grindhouse and exploitation film.
Planet Terror and Death Proof. Only at the Grindhouse.
Contemporary movies exude the spirit of exploitation. Well, it seems that the studios have turned into the 40 Thieves themselves, always looking for new bait. Most movies use disturbing themes to excite the audience, which isn't bad. But remember that maybe in 40 years the viewer will see John Wick the way that we see this.